Hey y'all, hey. How y'all doing? Me, I'm doing good. Welcome to the Old You versus New You radio podcast and my podcast From Darkness to Light, and also my podcast Perfectly Unperfect radio podcast. I'm your host. Y'all know who I am by now. Thank you guys for joining me for this episode. If you guys like the commentary, please hit the like, subscribe, and notification button to receive notification videos on my Darkness to Light channel. And then also on my Spreaker.com. You can go to Spreaker.com/, um, perfect perfectly imperfect radio podcast, and also my other podcast, the Old You versus the New You radio podcast. And a little about me: I'm a certified recovery life coach, all about helping people on their paths, their journeys, and their purpose to a new and better you through self-discovery. Now, today we're going to be talking about the fact of letting go of what was and focusing on what is and what will be. Now, I know that is like one of the hardest things to do is to let go of what was and focus on what is and what will be. Now, I know that's very, very hard to do. I know for a lot of people, the past is something that you want to stay in for multiple different reasons, whether it be because you want to be young the rest of your life, the fountain of youth. You feel like your old days were better than the days you are now. You feel like that you don't have any excitement in your life, so you want to go back and see if you still got it by cheating on your wife. Let me break something about the past. The past is just that, the past. Yesterday was part of your past. Day before yesterday was a part of your past. The past is the past. And if you don't move on and you don't move forward and you don't grow, evolve, elevate, and mature, then you're going to stay stagnant. And there's an old saying: while you remain stagnant and focusing on the past, the present and the future will continue to move because time does not stop for nobody. So while you're wasting time doing things in your past, the present and future is still moving forward. So even though you're in the present version of yourself, far as physically, your mind frame is not. It's just like being autistic and you have autism or any mental disability. It's like the mind and the body are not connecting because the brain, the body is still moving forward, but the brain is still stuck in a certain time or a certain age. Like I have a son with autism, and my son is just now almost to the point where he's realizing he's a grown man, and he's in a place now where he still has that childlike part of himself, but also understands that he's a grown man and he likes girls and things of that nature. So it's really pretty much a balance. And with children, it's no different. Even though you have some kids that age wise, as far as their age, it doesn't mean mentally that they're the same as their age. And there are others where their bodies look more mature, but age wise, as far as mentally, they're still pretty much young. So at the end of the day, there's different ways to look at this, but I'm trying to find a video that's kind of bring it home for me. So I'm looking into something that might work. But what I will say is it's not easy to let go of the past. It really ain't. A lot of people do not know how to move forward. They don't know how to let go of something that's happened and pretty much move forward from it. An example of this primarily is relationships, primarily is where this goes on. And this is when a lot of people are holding on to anger towards an ex, baby mama, baby daddy, where they feel like this other person is moving on with someone else. And this person it's still stagnant. So, for example, you may have a woman that may have helped a man to build, and he leaves her for a whole nother woman that didn't help him at all. And now she's raising children out there by herself. It's like saying that you're homeless and you got kids and your baby daddy is nowhere to be found. You're taking on both responsibilities as a parent, and now you're regretting your decision because you're like, if I wouldn't have had sex with this man, I wouldn't have had all these kids. You have a lot of people that are lowering their standards and lowering who they are and are now older and are like, why in the world did I do that? Why in the world am I sitting here falling behind these people? A lot of people now are looking at the coulda, shoulda, wouldas and now are applying it in their lives now. The problem is when you have people that are going to prison that never committed a crime a day in their lives, and now they're sitting in prison for whatever the case may be, are now having these same thoughts every single day. Now you have some people that are able to get out of prison and they're able to go and live a normal life. But on the flip side, you got people that get out and they go right back to the same habits, right back to the same things, and they're now back in jail. Like what happened in Love and Lockup, for example. There was a couple that ended up going back. The girl ended up going back in jail and convincing the other man to do something, and now both of them sitting in jail. So, like I said, at the same time, you can't let negative people influence you to do something that goes against everything that is right to do something wrong. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna put y'all speaker for a brief pause because I found a video I want y'all to listen to. So give me a second while I go make my tea. So give me a second. Just trying to make sure I have the video. Okay, I got it now. All right, y'all. I'm sorry for putting y'all on hold for a second. I had to find the video. So I'm gonna put y'all on I'm gonna put y'all on a video that is about letting the power of letting go. And I'm gonna make me some tea because I am currently under the weather. So today I'm not going to do too much talking. I'm going to let these videos speak for me today. These videos that I'm using is for educational purposes only. I'm using these videos to educate people the importance of not only being alone, but also when it comes to healing and growing evolve as a recovery life coach. I'm also using these videos for the purpose of educating people the importance of letting go of what was and focus on what is and what will be. And I'm going to explain why that's important, and I might stop in between these videos and talk about some of the things that speak to me. But I'm trying to listen to it while I'm in the kitchen. So I will see y'all in a few minutes after I share my screen and you guys can check this video out. This video is all about the power of letting go and why it's important, because holding on to negative or any type of negativity is not healthy for you in any aspect, whether it's mentally, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, regardless of what it is. It's not worth it. And I understand that when someone hurts you, it's devastating. It's a lot. But at the same time, sometimes negative things can move things out the way for something better. And that's the way you got to look at it. You got to look at it as, yeah, you let this person into your world. But guess what? If they wouldn't have came in your world, you would have not known the next time what to look out for. So sometimes negative situations can happen so you can learn from it, grow from it, evolve from it, elevate. But on the flip side, you got people that don't want you to grow, don't want you to evolve, and certainly don't want you to elevate. They want you to be the same as you were. Like if somebody was to ask somebody about who they were, they can't tell you who you are now. But what they can tell you is who you were 20, 30 years ago. But they don't know you now. And I don't even realize, and nor do I understand why people want to bring up stuff in the past that has nothing to do with the person now. And people think by exposing people that it's going to change anything. Not necessarily. Not if that person has dealt with all those issues. It's not going to impact them. If anything, they're going to say, well, you put it out there. Now what? What happens now? If a lot of people want to walk away from me because you put something out there, then by all means, walk. I don't care. You can walk all you want to. It don't mean anything to me. I'm still going to be good no matter what. I'm still going to be okay no matter what. I don't care how many people walk out. If anything, I'm used to people walking out. But the one being that you can never turn against me is God. So you can turn everybody else against me, but you can't turn God against me. So at the end of the day, moving forward is something that's important. You can't keep hanging on to something that's not working for you, something that's not bettering you or making you a better person. Because when it comes to recovery and when it comes to healing, that is something you need to understand. So once you become healed, once you deal with these situations, the last thing you want is to repeat it. The last thing you want is to end up with the same result. So now that you've been through it, now you know how to deal with it when it happens again. Now you understand that negative people just do things because they just want to do it. So there's nothing really you can do about it. But at the same time, you deal with the emotions and deal with everything before you deal with that person. That way, the only thing you need to say is, get out my house. All you need to say is, we ain't friends no more. You don't need to say nothing. You don't need to hear no explanation, because those explanations mean absolutely nothing. As a matter of fact, just change your phone number. Matter of fact, move. That's what you do. Move. Don't even go through that. Because once you have children with somebody that you got issues with, you are forever connected to that person. And that's just the way it is. So with that being said, I'm going to go and I'm gonna let y'all watch this video while I make me some tea, because I am currently under the weather. And I'm about to add some Theraflu to it. And I'm gonna try this Ask Water to see how it does, to see if it's gonna impact me in some type of way. If not, I'll just drink the tea. So with that being said, I'll be back in a few minutes. So I'll let y'all watch this video and I'll be back in a couple minutes.
Mastery of the world is achieved by letting things take their natural course. You cannot master the world by changing the natural way. Lao Tzu. Our civilization is in a state of ongoing strivings, in which control seems to be the highest virtue. We don't have to look far to observe this. In the workplace, for example, employees are more and more controlled and supervised. Especially now we have the technology to do so. And governments put more effort into tracking their citizens, whether it's through camera supervision or the proposal of a so-called social credit system. Ironically, the latter is a Chinese invention that goes utterly against a philosophy that emerged from the same soil: Taoism. As opposed to a control-obsessed society, Taoism revolves around letting go and going with the flow. At first glance, the act of letting go may seem a form of weakness, but according to the Taoists, by a correct understanding of how the universe works, we can approach life more intelligently, more efficiently, and go with the flow, rather than swimming against it. Therefore, the power of letting go is a form of strength that's based on sophistication rather than force. The Tao Te Ching, the main Taoist scripture, was written by a mysterious sage named Lao Tzu. There are countless ways in which we can interpret this text. One way is to see it as a guide for a ruler. What characterizes the passages of the Tao Te Ching regarding governance is that Lao Tzu puts emphasis on ruling by not ruling, as he compared governing a country with frying a small fish. Too much poking spoils the meat. He argued that when a ruler tightens his grip on the people, all kinds of negative side effects will occur. We see that people become distrustful towards one another when the government is too patronizing. And when it's too intrusive, people become rebellious. But when a leader is unobtrusive and acts with integrity, then people will become whole, as they are granted the space to naturally evolve. It's clear that Lao Tzu favors a passive form of governance, which doesn't just apply to ruling a state, but also to the governance of ourselves. Because letting things go is the key to let nature do the work, which applies to any level. In this video, I would like to show you several ways in which Taoism shows us the power of letting go. The first one is the art of non-doing. The Taoist concept of Wu Wei can be explained as effortless action, or the so-called flow state, but also as non-doing, or knowing when to act and when not to. When we take a critical look at ourselves, we see that the need for control prevails in many areas of life. We feel the need to control our pets, our children, our gardens, our video games, in some cases our partners, and first and foremost, our future. Now, control isn't always a bad thing. In order to survive, we need to exert our influence on the environment to some extent. Especially self control can lead us in a positive direction. Without control, human civilization would probably never have occurred. But too much of it doesn't get us anywhere. It seems that we systematically underrate the natural influences that lie at the basis of our daily lives. We can't control everything, and many things happen when we stop controlling them. Let's take a tree, for example. We can plant it, we can water it, we can add some fertilizer and make sure it's exposed to enough sunlight. But any more intervention would only damage the process because we interrupt nature from doing its job. Another example is attraction. The first step to attracting someone is simply showing ourselves so that the person we want to attract knows that we exist. Then attraction either happens or not. When attraction is there, one can easily blow it by taking too much action. Attraction is a natural phenomenon that is beyond our control. It absolutely cannot be enforced. Instead, it has to grow or erupt spontaneously. And there's only one way to let the seed of attraction grow into a beautiful tree, which is not intervening, aside from the occasional watering. Silence makes the heart grow fonder. That's why letting go is vital in relationships, because by letting go, we give space to the forces of the universe to unfold. After a fight, for example, anger naturally erodes. And when trust is breached, one cannot enforce restoration. It has to grow back naturally. So letting go makes the difference between controlling and allowing. The second one is embracing change. The Taoists were very aware that life unfolds in a constant movement between opposites, between high and low, light and dark, yin and yang. There isn't much we can do about it, and the most efficient way of living is simply moving along with the waves of existence. The flow of life and its transformations are inevitable. Yet we see so many people cling to their circumstances. In the metaphor of the river stream, they hold on tightly to a branch or a rock, afraid to let go, because they want complete control over their position. They simply don't trust the universe. And the consequence of this is a rigid lifestyle. They see life passing them by, including many opportunities for positive change, and they miss out on a lot of fun. As Lao Tzu wrote in the Tao Te Ching, and I quote, "The living are soft and yielding. The dead are rigid and stiff. Living plants are flexible and tender. The dead are brittle and dry." End quote. There are also those who swim against the stream. They are the biggest energy wasters of them all. Perhaps they see honor and virtue in taking an extremely non-agreeable stance in life, but exercising a constant resistance to how the universe unfolds isn't a very efficient way to live, and most likely makes one worn out and miserable. This non-acceptance of how things are is also the cause of people fighting against themselves. Because of certain societal expectations, people engage in a battle against their inherent nature. Instead of flowing along with the attributes that nature has given them, we could say, follow your strength, instead of trying to repair your weakness.
Let's get into that conversation because that's true. A lot of y'all are so busy trying to worry about your weaknesses and not learning to turn them into strengths. So, when it comes to people that are unattractive, for example, a lot of people go get plastic surgery. You think that's going to solve your problem? Just because physically you change yourself does not mean that mentally you're not the same overweight girl you were before you went and had surgery. So you're doing all of these things, but you're doing it for the wrong reason. You're not doing it to repair yourself because you want to be a better person. You're doing it because you want your spouse to marry you or because you want a spouse. And instead of being patient and waiting and working on your childhood traumas and working on yourself, you're choosing to continue the same behavior. You keep dating and hanging around the same type of people, and even though they're all different people from all walks of life, you're still getting the same result. You can date a man that's poor and date a man with money and still have the same result because they're the same type of people. So for some people, yeah, it's easy for you to attract things to you. But the question is, are the things that are attracting to you what you really want? So a lot of people are on this pick me, but at the same time, you're so worried about your insecurities because everybody keep throwing in your face your insecurities instead of embracing them and saying, okay, well, these are my insecurities. This is who I am. This is what I am. That's it on that. Either you accept it or you leave me alone. So at the end of the day, y'all worry about the wrong things that don't matter, to be honest. But let's continue because at least I got an hour in between these two videos I got to do. So anyway, like I said, there's nothing wrong with you wanting to better yourself, or you want to lose weight for health reasons, and that's going to make you better. But even people that lose weight does not mean they're still going to be happy. A woman passed away who went to the gym and looked like she was healthy and passed away. So just because you're externally healthy does not mean you're internally healthy. And just because you're externally looking unhealthy doesn't mean you are healthy, that you're not unhealthy. So, just want to say that. Let's continue.
If you're not making 100
also applies to uselessness and use. Follow your strength instead of trying to repair your weakness. Embracing change also applies to uselessness and usefulness. Taoist philosopher Zhuangzi observed that usefulness depends on the circumstances, as he told about a merchant that tried to sell shirts to a tribe whose members were covered in tattoos and always showed them off by walking around shirtless. To them, shirts are useless, but to us, at least most of us, they aren't useless at all. Usefulness and uselessness are relative and are not to be treated with rigidity. When you live in New York, for example, having a car is less useful than when you live somewhere in the countryside where the next village is 50 kilometers away. So we ought to be willing to let go of things that are useless in one situation and adopt what's useful instead. That's how we make change an ally and not an enemy. The third one is not focusing on outcomes. Comparable to the Stoics, the Taoists observed that the focus on future outcomes has a negative effect on us. Focusing too much on the future makes us anxious. Our present endeavors become fueled by a desire for an uncontrollable result. And the more we crave that, the less we value the only thing we have, which is the present moment. Zhuangzi goes one step further by telling us that the more we value something external, the worse we perform in the present. He tells us about an archer that loses his ability to shoot when he focuses too much on the prize. I quote, "He who is contending for a piece of earthenware puts forth all his skill. If the prize be a buckle of brass, he shoots timorously. If it be for an article of gold, he shoots as if he were blind. The skill of the archer is the same in all the cases, but in the two latter cases, he is under the influence of solicitude and looks on the external prize as most important. All who attach importance to what is external show stupidity in themselves." End quote. Now, this doesn't mean that the people that want external things are stupid. It means that when our minds are in the future, we paralyze ourselves in the present. This principle lies at the basis of the flow state that we see in activities like sports, art, and dancing. When we experience this flow state, we're so immersed in the task at hand that we completely forget about the future. It's like the dance dances itself. The last one for now is letting go of excess. In a society in which status is an ultimate concern, everyone wants to be at the top. Not because it's necessarily the best place to be, but because we have collectively decided that high status is preferable and low status is horrible. This also comes with a collective pursuit of the former and a collective aversion to the latter. But the tallest trees catch the most wind. And when we are at the top, it takes a tremendous amount of effort to stay there because everyone wants to take your position. It's stressful compared to the lower regions, in which one lives more privately with less competition, less enemies, and in general, less effort. The other extreme, however, is a place of deprivation. If we deliberately seek the absolute bottom, we become ascetics. Although in a different way, there's still a strong attachment, the attachment to deprivation. The question we can ask ourselves is, what do we truly need? Zhuangzi observed that a bird that nests in the forest wants no more than one branch, and that a mouse that drinks from the pond drinks no more than a belly full. So if we aim for what we need and let go of excess, we prevent possessions from becoming our prison cell, which allows us to travel light. Epicurus observed as well that the basic necessities for life are easy to come by, and that living moderately is the key to happiness. It's a path that's easy and sustainable. As Lao Tzu wrote, those who use moderation are already on the path to the Tao. End quote. When we stop striving, we give nature space to unfold. In trusting the universe and accepting that it's ever-changing lies the opportunity to become loose and supple, instead of rigid and brittle. The power of letting go means that we float along the stream without grasping for rocks and branches, and that we cut loose that weight so we can navigate through life with minimal effort. Thank you for watching.
Okay, why is this important? This is important because a lot of stuff that y'all think is the key to happiness is not. I learned a long time ago that success is not what society tells you. Success is when you're healthy as far as your overall health and wellness internally and externally. When you have a family and y'all been together to death do us part. When you're able to do the things you want to do. To be able to have the freedom that when you wake up in the morning, you don't have to worry about getting up for a job. You don't have to worry about doing something that you don't want to do. So for example, I sell jewelry, for example, and let's say for argument's sake that I do that full time and I start making money. So let's say I go to the flea market, start selling my jewelry. It starts to do well. I start to sell it. Let's say my life coaching business takes off. And now all of a sudden now I'm doing better at my business than I am working a regular 9-to-5 job. So I get up, I do all my jewelry. I do get them ready, get sent off to my clients. Friday, I take it and take them to drop them off. I do the next during the weekend. I can actually be out of town and still do my jewelry while I'm out of town and make some stuff and being able to sell it. So again, like I said, it's better to do something that you love than something you hate. A lot of people do not want to sit in the office for 8 hours and be in front of a screen. As a matter of fact, being under a screen for 8 hours is the most unhealthy thing anyway. You have people that can't enjoy a vacation and go to France for 2 or 3 weeks because they have a job they have to go back to. Can't even go to the doctor's office because they don't get paid to go to the doctor's office. So it's not even about going and spending time with your children. Your children don't even matter at this point. Your husband don't even matter at this point. All they care about is 8 hours of your day, 8 to 10 hours a day is at an office or some building. Even when you work at home, 8 hours of your day is in front of a computer. It's to the point now, it's so much violence going on. You can't even go outside to even sit outside, which is probably what I'm going to do after I do my last video of the day. Probably just going to slip some shoes on and sit outside. and just sit and get some vitamin D. Because I definitely need vitamin D. So I'm definitely going to be sitting outside because there's a video that I saw about the importance of getting vitamin D and how it impacts and affects you. So I'm definitely in that phase of my life where I'm definitely going to consider, doing that. But I want people to understand that being alone is not, you know, as hard as people think it is, but being stuck in the past is never a good thing. So, you know, you got to let it go. Cuz while you're holding on to it, these other people are moving forward. So even though you're still in love with this person, this other person's not in love with you, which is where the obsession and the addictions come from. And then you're trying to find somebody just like that person that you was with, or you don't want somebody that's like that person that you're with. The problem is you haven't changed. You're still the same person. Because you're still the same person, these same type of men are going to approach you. And so if you're not where you can be found, then nobody can find you. So, for example, if you're going through an illness, and let's say, for example, I can't drive, how am I supposed to meet people? That's why, I've been on social media because it's my way of being able to interact with people. So, I want people to understand that it's okay to let go of the past. It's okay to move forward. It feels good to let it go. It feels good to take your flaws and turn them into strengths and turn all of them to titanium. So now nobody can impact and affect you in a negative way whatsoever. Is it easy? Mm-mm, it's not. But it is worth it in the end. Now, I know for a lot of people, doing something that goes against everything that doing something that's unfamiliar is not easy, but sometimes we got to take that jump. We got to take that leap of faith. And if your faith in God is that strong, then there's nothing that you can't handle. So I have another video that I saw about getting stuck in the past. Let me pull it up right quick. Let me put you on a brief pause. So, it helped, it's a man. Okay. Now that I got it up. Okay. This person is a man by the name of Jordan Peterson. And this video is all about what to do if you're stuck in the past. Now, like I said, I am under the weather. I'm not feeling good. But now that I got my nice little tea and I'm about to put some Theraflu in it, I forgot to put some in there. So I'm going to put some Theraflu in there. And I'm going to drink that because my throat is killing me. That's why I chose videos today. But yeah, I mean, you got to let it go because holding on to those emotions doesn't matter to the person that wronged you. It doesn't matter to anybody else but you. And then you'll be sitting there and you'll be sulking. And then, just like people that have suicidal thoughts and have committed suicide, that's because they were sitting along in their thoughts. And those thoughts, especially children, and for some adults that have been through so much trauma and they're just going through it over and over and over. And they're like, when is it going to stop? It's going to stop when you stop it. You got to be the person to stop it. You got to be the one to say, you know what? I need therapy. I need a life coach. I need somebody that's going to help me through these situations and help me to become the best version of myself. And I can't do it alone. And you can't do it alone. You're going to need help. But it's okay to be able to say, you know what? I can't keep going through this. I can't keep holding on to this anger that my parents put me through, or my sister, or siblings, or family members, or friends, or exes, or job, or whatever it is that got something to do with another human being. Let it go. Because as soon as that person said no, that should have been the end of the conversation right there. But we continuously try to convince people why we should do certain things because that's what society tells us to do. It's called competition. But does that make it better for you? No, it doesn't. So with that being said, let's get into this video while I drink my tea and take my Theraflu. I don't know what's going on with me. I know tomorrow if I don't feel good, I'm going to the urgent care because I've been feeling bad all weekend. But let's continue. But let me even use that for example. I ain't been feeling good the past couple days. And what's even more crazy, people are having more and more food allergies than ever before. People now are to the point, today I decided to cook. I may have to end up pouring the milk that I bought out because of the situation. Like I said, it's going to be to a point where we're not going to be able to eat anything. So, what most people are probably going to panic. Now, when I was trying to find me something to eat, as far as if I was going to order out, everybody says, don't eat McDonald's, don't eat here, don't eat there. And so I'm sitting there like, I have a taste for pancakes. But then I realized I got pancakes in there, so I might as well just make my own pancakes. But then I did make some grits. I did make grits. So I have some for tomorrow. And I probably will eat the grits tomorrow. But now it's to the point you can't eat nothing because you don't know what type of bacteria infection is going to end up being fatal. So that's another example. It's either you're going to panic or you're going to figure out what you're going to do. Because thank God I got a bunch of cans that I bought last year that I'm holding on to. Because just in case push come to shove, at least I got them cans for last year. Because I don't know what I would have done. And somebody told me stack up on canned goods because you're going to need them. Because when everything start going bad and all of this recall start happening, this was like 2017 when this person told me this. They said, at least you're going to be good. Well, honey, I got plenty of canned goods in there. I got plenty of noodles in there. I'm good. I'm absolutely good. I got plenty of food. If something, God forbid, go wrong, it will last me for a good little minute. As long as I got electric, we good. So let's watch this video. I'm going to drink my tea, and I'll be back in a couple of minutes. Let me take myself out. So I'll be back in a couple of minutes.
Straightforward. If you're obsessed by memories of the past, more than 18 months old, and most of those are negative, so anxiety provoking most often, then there's a lot of you that's stuck in the past. And what that means is you didn't map the territory well enough, and the parts of your brain that are alarm systems, anxiety systems, are saying, no, there's holes in the way you're looking at the world. There's holes in the way that you're looking in the world. And you fell in them once, and you don't know where they are, and you don't know how to fill them, and you don't know how to walk around them, and so you can't forget them, you can't forget them, you can't forget them, you can't forget them. So you have recurring nightmares, for example, are a good example of that sort of thing happening. But in any case, if you have memories like that, you remember them, they make you feel anxious and negative, you're stuck back there. Your body is still reacting as if there's an emergency that could happen again that you haven't fixed. And it doesn't matter if it was your fault. That's irrelevant because the alarm system doesn't care. Like when your smoke detector goes off, it isn't relevant whether it was your fault. The smoke detector just says house is on fire, and that's a bad thing. And your anxiety systems are like that. If they're tagging old memories with anxiety, then you have to do something about it, or you will be tortured by those memories forever, because that's how the alarm system works. And so maybe you need to go back there and clean things up. You got to figure out, okay, well, how did this happen? What sort of role did I play? Even if it's a minor role, that doesn't matter, because the point is that you don't want to be put in the same vulnerable position again. So anything you can do to strengthen yourself is good. You know, and often if it's a really old memory, like maybe you were a child, you're not a child now. So you probably have a variety of techniques at hand that you could use to deal with a situation like that if it came up now. And so you have to update that part of your brain that still thinks you're 4. And lots of people have parts of them that are still stuck in some traumatic childhood experience. And they don't, I had a friend like that who had terrible childhood. And I mean, really, I've had clients with terrible childhoods, and his was like top of the lobster hierarchy in terms of terrible childhoods. And whenever he had a dream about it, which was very often, he was 5 in his dream. He's 58. You know, he's not 5, but hadn't been updated. And so he was still 5 in his dreams. And it was a complete bloody nightmares for him, complete with all sorts of terrible physiological symptoms, really hurting his life. He couldn't get himself updated. And he's much older in his dreams now, by the way. He's up to about 45. So that's a which is way better than 5, because you can't fight back when you're 5, but you can fight back when you're 45, especially if you have some, some experience at your disposal.
Let's talk about that for a minute. The memories you have as childhood, you can't do nothing about because you couldn't fight for yourself because you didn't know no better. So from the age of when you're born to about 18, those are things you have no control over to a certain extent. Because when you get 7 or 8, if your mom and dad are not around you, they're not going to really know what you've been told, which is part of the reason why most kids rebel, because they realize that their parents have not been honest with them. And because the other kids that they're friends with are the ones that tell them the truth, or what their version of the truth is, that's why they want to be around those kids. They want to be around those kids because their parents might be strict. Their parents might be where they can't do what they want to do. And these kids are wanting to wear makeup or whatever the case may be. They want to hang out with their friends. They want to go and do these things. And you're like, no, you should be worrying about friends right now. You shouldn't be worrying about all this stuff. But yet, because of what they're seeing on social media, and because most kids have cell phones, they're just emulating or imitating these celebrities. These celebrities are not your kid as far as their parents. You are. So when your kids say, when I grow up, I want to be like Beyonce, I'll be insulted, because how in the world are you going to say you want to be like Beyonce and I'm your mother? So at the end of the day, like I said, a lot of kids basically gravitate to other kids because whatever it is their parents are not giving them, they feel like other kids or another adult is going to give them. It's just like when a child is being molested and the child goes to the mother and she says, I've been molested. This is what happened to me. And the mom is like, I don't believe you, and takes the boyfriend's side. But yet the man is constantly, continuously doing it until she gets pregnant. Now you're kicking your daughter out the house because you feel like your daughter is the reason why your man is acting the way he's acting, or the man ends up leaving you for your daughter, who happens to be 16 years old. And he's been molesting her since she was 12. So you weren't even your child's protector. And she's got to live with that every day. And so now, she's out here doing drugs, doing these things to cope, because coping is definitely something we all do. We need something to cope, whether it be drinking, drugs, whether it be gambling, whether it's sex, whether it's being in a relationship with somebody, whether it's domestic violence. But when someone goes through something like that, they're going to feel like they're not good enough. They're not worthy because they don't have somebody to tell them that they're worthy. No differently than somebody being in the foster care system. Same thing. The only thing they know is struggle. The only thing they know is that they were abandoned and that that nobody loved them. So trust me, when he's saying that you are that 5-year-old child, is no different than having autism and your brain may be of a 6th grader, and yet you are the body of the adult. So you have to be able to get your mind and body in the same level to deal with all of these things. So that way, as a 50-year-old woman, those things don't bother me no more. My past does not bother me no more. So now I'm just sitting still, and whatever is meant for me, God will bring it to me. That's pretty much it. So let me continue the video, and I'll be back in a minute.
So anyways, you need to know where you are. So let's say where you are is, well, you're on this stage and you're on this side of the stage, and you decide that you're going to go over to that side of the stage, just to show that you can. And you're making the decision, the same decision that, the famous chicken who is going to cross the road. Why does the chicken cross the road? Well, if it's a sensible chicken, it's because it assumes that there's something better on the other side of the road. It's like, or maybe it's random curiosity, but then it just gets picked off by a dingo or a coyote, so that's not so good. the other side of the road is better, so away the chicken goes. So that's what you're doing. You're going somewhere slightly better. And so that's good. Technically, it's good. Because the way that your positive emotion systems work, they run on a neurochemical called dopamine, which, by the way, is the neurochemical system that drugs like cocaine and methamphetamine and alcohol for some people and opiates affect dramatically and make people feel far better than they should, which is part of their danger. It's a very fundamental system. The dopamine system kicks in with a kick of positive emotion if you're going somewhere that's worth going. And so that's worth knowing. It's really worth knowing. It's like, okay, you want a little bit of positivity in your life. Well, how do you get it? Well, you got to get the system. It's almost it's the left hemisphere system for most people. Not that that's particularly relevant, but it is a standalone neurochemical system. It's rooted very, very deeply in the brain's exploratory circuitry. So very ancient system. And it's happy when you have somewhere to go. That's the first thing. And then it's also happy when you're going there. And so if I'm on this side of the stage and I want to go over to that side of the stage and I see that there's a nice clear pathway, I could just go straight down this line. Then I look at that and I'm actually a little happy. I'm not ecstatic. I mean, who the hell cares if I get to the other side of the stage, right? I mean, it's a small piece of my life, but it's not nothing. It's something. Okay, and so I look at the pathway and I think that's a good pathway and I feel a little positive. And then if I move here and then I see that little table right in the way between me and the other side of the stage, then I feel a little negative because I don't want an obstacle in my pathway. And so that's really how you're looking at the world, by the way. You don't see objects. It's not the right way to think about it. We don't see objects and then think about them and then evaluate them and then decide how to act on them. Or if we do it rarely and slowly and with a lot of thought. What we see instead are pathways with tools that will move us forward or obstacles, right? And there's no obstacles here and there's a nice flat road, and so great. Positive emotion. This is a task I can undertake. The sailing is clear. It's a good day. And then I'm here and it's like, yeah, well, that's a little annoying. I get a little pang of disappointment, let's say, anxiety. Can I make it around that obstacle? I'm fairly confident. I've done this sort of thing before. So I can take the rough route and I can, walk forward like this, and then I can do this great trick, which is just this. And then, I've circumvented the obstacle. Now, if I didn't know how to do the little bit of circumvention, then that would be a real problem, right? Because I couldn't get from point A to B, and that would screw up my plan. But I do have that particular skill set, so it's a minor disruption to the perceptual set that I'm using to organize the world. It's a minor bit of chaos, because that's what happens when your perceptual set, the structure that you're using to organize the world, the plan through which you're viewing the complexity of the world, reveals an inadequacy, then that destabilizes your emotions. So that's another thing to know. One thing you need to know is you need to be going somewhere and there needs to be a pathway in order for you to feel good. The other thing to know is that if that plan is untenable or becomes destabilized, then what happens is you become flooded with negative emotion, frustration, disappointment, anger, primarily anxiety. But all of those things sort of intermingled. Anger maybe because you have to fight your way through the obstacle. Frustration because maybe you have to make a new plan. Disappointment because you put a bunch of work into the damn plan and it didn't work out. Anxiety because now there's too many choices in front of you. And so people don't like to have their plans disrupted. They don't like to have their plans disrupted. And the reason for that is that their plans are directly associated with their emotional perception of the world. And so, that's a good thing to know too. That's why, what it is you've decided that you're going to go to like a Korean restaurant for dinner, and that's fine. And then it turns out that you can't. And maybe you have to go to a Greek restaurant. And it's like, who cares, right? Unless you hate Greek restaurants. Korean restaurant, that's pretty good. Greek restaurant, that's pretty good. You're still going to be annoyed that your plans changed. Well, why? Well, because it's annoying to have your plans changed. It disrupts the structure that you use to stabilize your perceptions of the world. And it throws you momentarily into a state of chaos.
I agree with what he's saying because I'm gonna tell you why. Because with recovery, you're gonna find out that a lot of your disruption was because you never did what you wanted to do in the first place. You did what everybody else wanted you to do, not what you wanted to do. You up here dressing like everybody else because you want to be like everybody else, and think like everybody else, and act like everybody else, and do what everybody else is doing, but not doing what actually makes you as an individual happy. It's just like people that go and get plastic surgery and now they're completely messed up because of the internal damage they've done to their health and wellness because of that plastic surgery, the drugs and alcohol, the damage that has been done, the domestic violence when it comes to the damage that's been done, when you fail or had car accidents, the damage that has been done. But either way it go, either you did it to yourself, self-inflicted, or someone did it to you. So for example, you want to get married. This man doesn't want to get married. So now your plans that you had when you were a kid, that's why I hate when people ask kids, what do I want to be when I grow up? Because not the way this society is, more than likely you're not going to be that at all. You're just not. Hold on a second, so get something off. Okay. But anyway, so even though your plans may not go the way they're supposed to go, it doesn't mean that that's the end of the world. So let me give you an example of what happened to me when I went to Fort Lauderdale for my birthday. My plans were to walk and do some stuff, but I ended up having allergic reaction to chocolate. How is that possible? I don't know. But apparently they must have been cooking seafood when they were doing my happy birthday thing. But I ate the strawberries and I ended up having an allergic reaction to it, which was bad. But the ambulance came and it did kind of mess up my night because I was going to go up to the rooftop and I ended up not being able to. So things happen. It's just like when it comes to relationships and the fact that all my friends and family, they're all married and I'm the one that's not. I'm okay with that. And one time I was like, well, why is it that I'm the one that's single? That's because in the environment I was in, I wasn't meant to be with any of these dudes in the first place. And now I've come to that realization. And now I'm in a new environment. And now I'm working on myself. So the reason why people see me on TikTok and they see me as I am, because I am working on myself. That is why. A lot of people will sit up here and even though they're going through something, they're still gonna come on here, they're still gonna be all pretty, they're still gonna be whatever. And so even though, like, for example, I want my content to build, I want my content to be where I can be a content creator / life coach. I want to be able to do webinars and seminars, but I know I gotta write books. But right now what I'm doing is building up my channels so when people go on here they're able to see stuff like this. But pretty soon I'll be going to Patreon and having my stuff on Patreon, and there's nothing wrong with that as well. At the end of the day, that freedom of not only financial freedom but also the freedom that you can get up whenever you want to and do whatever you want to and still be able to run a business is definitely absolutely a great thing. But at the same time, like he's saying, when people don't get what they want, they get upset. And the first thing they do is get into these typical emotions, even though there's 120 different emotions, negative and positive. People don't know that because you're not taught that. You're taught to compete no matter what. Whether somebody wants you or not, you're supposed to compete. If a man's with another woman, you're supposed to compete. If a man's with another, if a woman's with another man, you're supposed to compete. And that's not the way that goes. If somebody's with somebody else or messing around most people, you're supposed to leave them where they at. But that's not what you're told. A lot of people thinking, oh, well, I can't find a job. Well, maybe it's not meant for you to have a job. Maybe it's meant for you to have digital products and have a digital store. I'm trying to do that now where I can have actually a digital store, which works better for me because shipping can be shipped off versus me having to do it. But I do have some products that I do have to sell as far as jewelry that I'm gonna start putting also on my LinkedIn account and start, selling stuff as well, and also get an EMI number as far as tax number for here where I'm at for my new business. But at the same time, I was somebody that went through that where I was working for jobs and I thought I was going to be there for 20, 30 years, and that wasn't the case. And now a lot of jobs go through staffing companies and things of that nature. So it's a lot of stuff that's going on that really is not going to get you nowhere. And people now are realizing retirement is just out the window. There are going to be people that's going to be working literally to the day they pass away. There are going to be people that's going to literally not be able to even retire. There are people that's not going to be able to have money to be able to have a nurse. Because if they cut everything, you're pretty much going to be screwed. So let's watch a little bit of the video and then I'm going to close it out. So I'll be back in a second.
Not much. Now, how much chaos? This is interesting. We don't know, like, let's say you wake up one morning and you have an ache in your side. It's like, well, you don't have an ache in your side. What does it mean that you have?
Hi, Mark Barden at Sandy Hook Promise here. When the gunman
Have an ache in your side. Well, you don't know. Like, maybe it means you pulled a muscle and like, who the hell cares? Maybe it means you have cancer and like, you're going to be dead in 6 months. The whole range of possibility is there, and some people will assume one thing, it's like, that's nothing. And some people will assume the other, and all of them will be right sometime. And so the question is, how do you calibrate something like that? And the answer is, well, we tend to guess at it. We guess at it temperamentally. So one way we guess at it is we have our set points for negative emotion. So it's neuroticism trait. Some people will be a lot more nervous about a small level anomaly than others. And maybe they'll go to the hospital first and they won't die. And then, or maybe they'll be freaking out all the time and they'll be a hypochondriac, right? So there's pros and cons about being nervous like that. The other person's very emotionally stable. They don't worry about much. They think, it's nothing. And then, by the time they get to the hospital, it's too late. Hey, that's how the dice roll. That's one way that you guess. It's determined in large part genetically. Not completely, but in large part. Another part is your position in the hierarchy. So the issue is, well, how safe are you in life? And the answer is, who knows? But one of the way you guess is, well, are you good at things? Because if you're good at things and a problem comes up, you can probably solve it. And then you might think, well, how do you know if you're good at things? And one answer might be, well, other people think you're good at things. Because you're really kind of comparing yourself to other people when you're thinking about whether or not you're good at things. And so if it turns out that you're in a hierarchy and you're fairly high in the hierarchy, indicating a certain degree of competence, then your nervous system, under the control of the serotonin system, dampens down your negative emotion. It says, look, all things considered, you're probably pretty safe. And that's nice, but it also means you don't like having your position in the dominance hierarchy challenged at all. Because if you get tossed down the hierarchy, let's say you get fired, well, it wreaks havoc with your serotonergic function. It makes you defeated, like the defeated lobsters that I wrote about. And then all of a sudden, you're way more susceptible to negative emotion. And who wants that? And so that's why you don't even like to lose arguments. You lose a little argument, it's like, whoop, down the dominance hierarchy a bit, up, emotions are a bit destabilized. It's no damn way, I'm right. And why? Because I want to keep my neurochemistry in check. And no wonder. Well, the thing is, sometimes it's better to learn than to insist upon being right, because learning works better for the future. But you get the point. Straightforward.
So the point of this video, and I love so much about it, is the fact of the matter of this. As long as you hold on and you think your emotions are making the right decisions for you, they're not. Your emotions are just a way of expressing what your thoughts are. Your actions and behavior are basically acting on how you're feeling. So, for example, there's a difference between your body and your mind, which is why the subconsciousness is 95% of your brain, because your body is pretty much 95% of you. So you don't know when you wake up in the morning, how you're going to react or how you're going to feel. Sometimes you can go to bed fine and wake up in pain. The pain can spread from multiple places, but there's a difference between physical pain and emotional pain and psychological and mental pain and internal and external pain physically. They're all different. But don't get me wrong, the worst pain is not even mental, it's physical. Because when you have eternal pain and you got chronic pain and you got numbness and you got weakness and you got all this other stuff going on, is worse than mental pain, because mental pain, you can get through it by dealing with it. But physical pain, there's no cure for it because you can't see pain physically. You can basically express pain by your emotions, by your actions and behavior. But as far as actually seeing the pain, no. Some people can take a hit, other people can't. So even though some people may not have a black eye, it doesn't mean that internally there's not going to be vision problems later on down the line. Just because, it may not seem like right now you don't have an STD, don't mean you won't get one, doesn't mean that you won't get HIV later on down the line. None of that means anything. So by letting go of the past and understanding things are going to change and things are going to be altered, it makes it a whole lot easier for you. Because now okay, there's a possibility something can go wrong. Not that you're claiming that. You're not claiming that something's going to go wrong. But just in case it does, you know how to automatically deal with it. So for example, let's say, for argument's sake, and this happened to me also when I was in Fort Lauderdale. It was a possibility my flight was going to be altered. Okay. And so I wouldn't have been able to leave till 6 o'clock in the evening and checkout time was 11. They waited until the morning of to change my flight. So I made a phone call to the actual airline themselves and asked them, could I get a different flight? Even though I went through Priceline to get my flight, I went ahead and asked them, could they change it? And they did. Because there was no way in the world I was going to stay till 6 o'clock and have to sit at the airport. There was just absolutely no way. It's just like this time around, my flight to go on the cruise is early in the morning, and I mean literally early. I got to be at the airport at 4 o'clock in the morning. Well, 3:30, just to make sure that I get to the airport at 3:30, go through the line, and make sure I know where I'm supposed to sit for about an hour. Because my flight is at 5 something in the morning. Even though the boat does not leave until 3:30 in the afternoon on that particular day, but still, because me and my sister were talking, and we were saying that we could either go because she's not going to get there until 7. So I'm going to get there at 6:30, and then I have to sit and wait for her. But the good thing is I can actually sit where she's going to be coming in at and find out where her flight is coming in at. And I'll just sit over there and go sleep until she get there. But I have to go downstairs and go get my luggage. So I'll probably be downstairs in the luggage thing waiting on her. And I'm probably just going to sit somewhere and probably fall asleep until she get there. And then we can either at 7 in the morning go ahead and take an Uber all the way to the air where we're going to be going, or we can go and just go straight to my homegirl's sister house and wait. But me and my sister was like, you know what, we might as well just go ahead on and take the Uber to the airport, go ahead and check our bags in, do all that stuff early, and go ahead and go to our room and just let them know that we're already there and that we've already checked in and be there early, because I'm not trying to be stuck in a line. I'm not. I would rather be there at 8:30 in the morning. So we got to figure out how much it's going to cost from, and I'm going to do that in a few minutes, how much it's going to cost from the airport that we're going to the actual where we're going to be boarding, because we got to find out where we're going to be boarding, so to make sure we're going to the right boarding, so we don't have to walk with them heavy bags. So that's what we're pretty much going to do. But we had thought about getting a car, but then we said no. And then we also said we're probably going to spend another 2 days there after we get off the plane, so we don't have to worry about trying to, get off a boat and then get on a plane. That just makes no sense. But at the end of the day, like I said, who knows what may happen. Our flights may get changed come before, and then we have to find another flight. So that's why we picked 5:30 in the morning, because just in case the flights get altered, at least we can, actually, go from there. So there's nothing wrong with that, honestly. I should have told her to fly in here like 2 weeks before, but we'll see. But the point I'm trying to make is, you don't know what's going to come along and cause problems. Sometimes you're not prepped for it, but as you learn from your mistakes and as you grow from your mistakes, you'll learn from them and you'll become a better person, and you won't be sitting up here making these same mistakes. It's going to be easier for you to catch it. It's going to be easier for you to let go, because you've already been down this road before. So even though, yes, this person broke your trust, the point is you're more aware of what's going on. You're more aware of what you're dealing with. And now you can deal with it. And now you can figure it out. And now you can say, you know what? I'm letting this go. I'm not even doing it. Now you're not even going to want an explanation on why the person did what they did. They did it because they wanted to. They did it because they had no regards for you. There is no excuse, because nobody loves you and turns around and hurts you or puts you in harm's way. If somebody loves you, they would never even put you in a negative situation in the first place. They would never have sex with a woman. If anything, they would pretty much pray for her and tell her to put her clothes on, and that's just not happening. But the fact that you don't have any self-control, that is where the problem is. So at the end of the day, you can sit here all day long and make it seem like that you're going to keep making excuses for people. No, there is no making excuses for some people. You cannot make somebody be on the same level that you are. It's just not going to happen like that. And that's just something people got to let go. So even though you may want things to be a certain way, doesn't mean that's what's going to happen. Doesn't mean that's what it's going to be at all. So even though we all want things to be what we want them to be, there's other people involved. So it's not just going to be about what you want and what you need. There's another person involved. And the fact that people keep lowering themselves in order to please other people, in order to make everybody else happy, but go against everything that is you're giving up everything. You're the one dropping everything. You're the one that can't do what you want to do because you're too busy trying to make this person happy, and you're miserable. So it's not worth it. It's not worth it. If you can't find somebody that's evenly yoked to you, someone that is just as godly as you, someone that is a believer in their faith in God, and they're not running around having sex with multiple women, and this person is only onto you and they accept you flaws and all, then that's the person you need to be with. But there's a lot of wolves in sheep's clothing. Boy and girl that cry wolves, sirens, vampires, and snakes running around here. Trust and believe, there are a few. And there are a lot. But at the end of the day, I'm going to end this by saying this. Welcome to the world we're in. But there are a lot of people that are not meant to be a part of society's standards. There are a lot of people that just need to sit back and be patient and wait for God to bring them the things that are meant for them. And anything that's been taken from you, either you never wanted in the first place, or there's something better that's going to take its place. And for me, I'd rather have something better that's going to take its place, because a lot of times we get stagnant. A lot of times we are so comfortable in certain things because it's safer. Doesn't mean it's better. Now, don't get me wrong, safety is important, but at the same time, if you're not moving, then that's a problem either way it go. But if you are interested in one-on-one coaching, or you have a story that you want me to talk about, or anything as far as this topic or other topics, or you're someone that can even relate to it, or you're someone that wants to be a guest on my podcast, please reach out to me at asha.mariama01@gmail.com. That's ASHA.MARIAMA01@gmail.com. And I look forward to hearing from y'all. Like I said, I love to be able to read people's emails and being able to help people. Like I said, I'm just a starting out life coach, and recovery is not easy at all. It's not. It's a lot of work that goes into it. But the fact that I can even help one person is enough. And I'm not worried about me having a bunch of people on my channel at the end of the day, because I know right now negativity is a thing that everybody seems to be fixated on. And that's okay too. The point is, I'm still going to continue to do my stuff, because eventually somebody that's in need is going to see it. Eventually, somebody is going to want the help and want to reach out, and these videos may help somebody, and that's okay. So with that being said, I just want to say thank y'all for supporting me through this journey of my health journey. I'm still under the weather, but after I did this last video, I am going to bed early. I'm going to finish watching what I was watching on Netflix, and that's it. So with that being said, I appreciate y'all. I thank y'all. And if you want to contribute to my channel, as y'all watch this, my information is at the bottom. So with that being said, may peace be with all of you. And may all of you find your journeys and your purpose and your recovery to a new and better you. Bye, y'all.